I think you'd appreciate this take from a leftist Jew. Message to the Jews, especially Jewish leftists: no one gets a theocratic ethnostate. Hashtag free Palestine.
Something real quick, because some of my fellow Jewish leftists have really been disappointing me. Because you're hanging on to this premise that Jews need their own theocratic ethnostate. No one gets a theocratic ethnostate. We live in a diverse, heterogeneous world where human beings have been moving across it all over the place for many, many tens of thousands of years. And I get why you think this, because we are fed this from birth and ritually reminded of it every year as part of our religion, that we have suffered so much and that we need a homeland. But it's just ahistorical to think that Jews have suffered in some unique and special way that makes them entitled to a theocratic ethnostate.
Like, I agree with the second part of that. I do disagree with the first part of it, but I think she's just saying that, like, Jews have been historically oppressed in a unique way. I think anyone that tells you that that's not the case is silly, okay? You know, I mean, and I know she's not saying that either, by the way. I know they're not saying that. Sorry, I didn't know that their pronouns were they, them. And they're not saying that anyway. They're saying that's not a justification for a theocratic ethnostate development, which is incredibly important. It is an incredibly important point to make, because, like, a lot of people do kind of run off with that without really thinking about it, where it's like, no, it has to be, which is ironic, because guess what? Even liberal Zionists living in Israel are straight up fucking upset about the theocratic ethnostate side in their domestic policy. A lot of them don't factor in that it's happening as a consequence, as a byproduct of a colonial apartheid state and its development. They don't really factor that part in, which is why you didn't really hear that perspective when the massive amounts of protests that were happening, when the Israeli government, the far-right Israeli government, tried to effectively neuter the Supreme Court. They were complaining about it. They were in the fucking streets, not realizing, even though many leftists at the time, myself included, openly stated, you cannot separate the apartheid state and its development from the theocratic ethnostate part that you're upset about. You can't, because those two work side by side. One justifies the other. One is a way to soften the other. One is another way to make it seem like this is actually a moral and just cause. It always works in that direction. And without recognizing that, without coming to terms with that reality, as many have, I think, you're not going to be able to effectively push back.
Genocide is a dime a dozen in this world. Even looking at European history. Yeah, I mean, the Christians really put a target on the Jews' back for a good 1,700-ish years there, give or take. But as bad as Jews had it, Romani's had it worse just about everywhere. So where's their theocratic ethnostate?
Damn, okay, I never even thought about that. That's actually kind of true.
Who are we going to kick off their land at gunpoint to give Romanis a homeland? Jews, at least we got to have shtetls. I mean, sure, they were, targeted for massacres occasionally, but the Romanis weren't even allowed to sit down, let alone being held as chattel slaves in Romania.
Damn, they just activated every fascist and every right-wing liberal in Europe. A right-wing liberal in Europe just woke up out of their slumber to be like, what? I'm sorry. Did someone just mention the humanity of Romani people? I'm going to lose my mind. I'm going to go eat some pasta real quick to calm myself down. You know what I'm saying?
For 500 years. And just look around the world. Look at black people in the Americas. Look at indigenous people all over the planet. They've all been enslaved and genocided by Christo-fascist colonizers. So our suffering just isn't that special. And the only reason that the UK and the US went along, touted that line and gave us an army was because they didn't want Jews in their countries after World War II.
And even before World War II, let's be fucking real, okay?
And they said, oh shit, we can send all these Jews to a desert where the indigenous people there have no standing army to defend themselves with and no modern military technology. And then we get an economic and military foothold in the Middle East that will always be beholden to us. Yeah, the UK and the US thought that was a pretty sweet deal after World War II. And y'all are leftists. I'm talking about Jewish leftists. Like, everyone gets a place to live and everyone gets equal rights where they live. So that means no theocratic ethnostates, like anywhere, for anyone. That's just kind of how it's got to be. And if you're carving out an exception for Jews just because you're Jewish, then you have no ideological integrity. So we need to think that one through a second time, folks.
True. All facts. Spitting. Spittle everywhere. All facts, no printer.